we're talking a lot about inclusivity, and it will be really interesting to hear from you, Juan Pablo, regarding what does it take to make this inclusive? What does it take to make this a just hydrogen transition? Could you highlight some of the key enablers or challenges that we are currently undergoing in this hydrogen transition? The floor is yours.
Thank you. First, I'm sorry to disappoint you, because I guess you were alerted that this was going to be a women-only panel. So my apologies. We had a panelist who had to cancel for unforeseen situation, but it is a pleasure for me to be here, and especially in this panel that is the majority is women, and on this very important topic. Thank you for the question. I think it's really important, and I think many of my answer has already been answered with the different presentations. We have the program that it was outlined in the opening speech of our managing director. We have the global program for hydrogen in industry, and in this program we have two dimensions. One is the global dimension, that we look at what other organizations are doing, what other countries are doing in the field of hydrogen. And I think this is a very clear example of that partnership, because we're partnering with agencies and organizations that have that specialty technical knowledge in that specific part of the value chain. In this case, for example, with the International Energy Atomic Agency. We partner with countries that have already gone a road on hydrogen. The presentation of the Japanese Hydrogen Association is an example. And most importantly, we support our member countries in their efforts to learn from this knowledge that is out there from the discussions, and try to capitalize and have this distillation process and apply it in different countries. And we have projects in South Africa, for example. Two dimensions that we have in our global program is the global, where we are in those discussions, and the local, where we want to apply this knowledge and this experience into local applications. But this is not all. This is only the dimensions. We look into key areas that we see that our member countries and developing countries struggle, because we have seen that also there's a struggle in developed economies. To outline this, there's our 6 key areas. One is policy. What is the role of the government into ramping up green hydrogen? Policy not only at one side of the value chain, but we completely concur with the vision that we should see at the complete value chain. Different policies are needed at the upstream of the value chain, at the production side, but also at the demand side. How can we stimulate, how can countries stimulate both the production and the demand? And this is the problem of the chicken of the egg that is always in the different discussions at the international level. Policy is one of the areas. The second area is standards. So coming back to policies, we don't only look to the policies, but what are the policy instruments that need to be in place? And by policy instruments, we talk about regulations. What is the regulatory framework? What are the market instruments that can be put there? Learning, as I mentioned, from the international community. The second is standards. Standards can be adopted to be put into the regulations. Hydrogen is a delicate gas, so we need to be careful on how we handle it, how do we produce it. It is necessary to, if we're talking about low carbon hydrogen, what do we mean by low? How can we measure what is low and what is not low carbon? And this is a discussion that is ongoing at an international level. How can we better measure, and every country measures the same way on the content of kilograms of CO2 per kilogram of hydrogen. This is a key area that needs to be defined before countries start to producing hydrogen. What is the purity of a hydrogen, that kilogram of hydrogen? Is it 98%? Is it 97%? And what is the composition of the remaining 2 or 3%? Can we put CO2 in that? Because then it will blow up the content of CO2 per kilogram of hydrogen. So these are discussions that we look at, and we put into our different programs in the countries where we work. That is the second area on standards. A third area is skills. It was mentioned. There's a need for different skills along the value chain. There's not the same skills at the production, at the storage, at the distribution, and at the end use. To put an example, Europe has done a study to identify what are the key skills that are missing. And we see electrochemical engineers, of course, that will be needed. Can we anticipate that preparation, those skills in the workforce that will be working eventually in those value chains in those countries that want to ramp up hydrogen? We need to anticipate that preparation with different vocational training program, universities, etc. A third area is on innovation. We also want countries to be a part of the innovation area on hydrogen. Not only be buyers of technology, but develop their own innovations, their own applications. The case of South Africa to put a fuel cell in these mining trucks it's a great example to start going into that direction. Investment is very important. We also look at investment. It is a crucial element, and we see what are the financing models and how we can, with our partnerships, pave the way for investments to land safely and land, more importantly, sustainably. It's not about getting the money, but it's getting the money for the right thing, not only for the production, but also that remains something in the country, in the society, and in the environment. And the last element is on the coordination. The value chain of hydrogen requires different coordination from different ministries, not only the Ministry of Energy, we have Ministry of Environment, Ministry of Industry, Ministry of Finance, different ministries that need to be coordinated in this. I will stop here, thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much for the comprehensive answer on how we may address these key enablers to make this transition possible. Just one short question regarding the aspect of skills and capacity building, because we briefly discussed about how important it is to create domestic value within developing countries, particularly for low carbon hydrogen. It would be really good to hear your perspective on what kind of skills that are required to manage the entire industrial supply chain.
Yes, skills, it's a very important area that we look, and as I mentioned before, Europe has done a study to identify what are the skills, most stressing skills that will be needed in the hydrogen value chain. And they have identified electrochemical engineers, they have identified certifiers, people who can certify the processes, they have identified electrical engineers. These are the skills that Europe has identified. Now, the question that we have is, if this is Europe, what is the situation in other countries that are just starting their processes? We have identified different set of skills along the value chain to really work with developing countries to anticipate these needs. We have mapped out about 72 different skills from hydraulics, from gas, from thermodynamics, from welding, from drivers. I mean, it can be as simple as drivers. A driver who uses a diesel truck, it may need different skills to drive a hydrogen truck. It's not about the red light, the green light, and turning right or left. It's about giving the maintenance and looking and to anticipate what are the needs to be set in place before we run with that truck. One example as well that we see here in this region of Europe, discussing with a developer, we ask the question, what are the skills that you find hard to find? And the answer was, technicians that can install solar panels. So this is a thing that it is in demand in this part of the region. It's as simple as that, because this is really at the base, at the upstream of the value chain if we're going to produce hydrogen. So we need to anticipate that the skills are well developed for the regions, and the benefits on the social employment and jobs remain in those regions. Thank you.